All right, thank you, Sharon. Hope you can hear me loud and clear. Welcome, everyone. This is a session where I'm going to talk a little bit about digital transformation, and I'm not going to bore you about all the details and all the problems that you got, but I'm happy to listen what some of the problems are. And one of the ways that we can fasten or accelerate digital transformation is to leverage this awesome product called Dataverse for Teams. I'm going to talk a little bit about it. But before that, let me introduce myself. Thanks, Sharon, already for introducing me. I am Sri Kumar Nair. You can call me Sri. I'm a principal group product manager on the Dataverse team, uh, focused more on the infrastructure. How do you get the awesome Dataverse for teams everywhere, including the Power Platform Dataverse, the full Dataverse everywhere? How do we deal with infrastructure? How do we deal with disaster recovery? How do we deal with making sure it stays secure, it's compliant and everything? Anything you want to ask about Dataverse, feel free to hit me up on that LinkedIn. And by the way, there's a book that I wrote as well. Feel free to read it. It's a step-by-step instruction into how to use Dataverse for Teams for all the awesome things that you need to do for digital transformation. I'll try to cover a little bit in the demo, so think about this as a crash course into how to get digital transformation going with Dataverse for Teams. Okay. With that, let's get into the topic straight away. Before we start, so Dataverse for Teams, as you must be knowing already from some of the sessions that you have already attended, it's a low code, no code platform coming together with the collaboration power and the productivity power of teams together. And that's how you get an awesome recipe to get your digital transformation going there. Let's dive straight into what is digital transformation. So the flow of the presentation here is going to be, I'll have like 3 or 4 slides and then dive straight into demos so that you can actually see how we can stitch end-to-end scenarios together and get digital transformation going at the grassroots level, as I like to call it. Like we need to get the employees of the organization motivated and participating in a digital transformation, because what you have seen is we have large corporation investing millions of dollars, the CEOs and the CCOs and the CFOs racking their brains trying to figure out how to get it going. But unless you get the actual employees motivated and involved, you would only see limited success here. So Power Platform, along with Teams, brings together this awesome platform where you can actually start grassroots level revolution and actually eventually help the digital transformation goals for the organization. So what is digital transformation? I have a textbook definition again taken from what I put into my book here. It's a process of using the most advanced technologies, or I would say as technology advances, leverage some of those advancements to empower your employees, make your product better, streamline your operations, and always keep on exceeding customer expectation. At this point, I would like to see if anyone wants to add some more questions, like definitions to this one. As I said, there is no ideal definition. Anything that gets you better customer experience and improve your business can all be categorized under digital transformation. And of course, people like to say automation, but that's just a way of getting the ultimate goal of improving customer experience and improving a business. Does anyone want to kind of come off of mute and give another definition to this? If not, I think we can move on. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Feel free to put it in the chats as well. I'll try to read as much as I can simultaneously while presenting. Okay. All right. Bottlenecks to digital transformation. I'm trying to not list down every problem that you got in an organization, but typically they fall into one of these categories: culture and training. How much of the culture is all about pen and paper versus how much is like digital transformation? Those culture shifts take years, sometimes like decades to happen. Then it's also the time to upskill, basically getting all employees familiarized with how to use the new tools, new apps, new gadgets. It's a learning curve that sometimes not just using, but also sometimes you need to kind of train them to build additional modules, be more like think about the manufacturing industry where you need to create guides on how to build a certain component and how to author those guides, learning guides and stuff. That's all kind of a time that you will need to invest in the employees to upskill. And then, of course, technology as such, right? As technology changes, even some of us who are pro devs struggle when a technology change happens, when we go from .NET 4 to .NET 5, or totally different, like coming from an open source system into Microsoft ecosystem, all those challenges that we see. Imagine I would say, a citizen developer who's not so familiar or not used to doing these changes rapidly in every 3 months, 6 months kind of a time frame. Then the next challenge, what we see with digital transformation is user adoption. How do we get people excited about using the new stuff? You would have invested millions, got your new application, but for legacy reasons or for maintaining the business operations, you still keep the legacy system live, and you will see it's very hard for users to move over from the legacy system to the new system. Quite often, there is a cutover date after which you will say every user goes to on the new system, but not often it is possible, and you kind of have to maintain the legacy systems for some of the processes or some of that corner case scenario which is not yet migrated to the new system. So user adoption is another challenge that we see as well. Next comes measuring progress. We put so much money, so much time, so much resources into it. Are we going in the right direction? Is digital transformation actually happening? How do we feel comfort to see, yes, whatever things that we are investing in, there is this return on investment, and how are we measuring progress towards that ultimate goal? So that's some of the bottlenecks I listed out. Anything new that comes out, feel free to put it in the chat. I'll be happy to hear if there are more that we should address here. And in a few minutes, we'll see how Dataverse for Teams is able to solve some of that problem, if not all of them. Okay. Sharon, any questions so far that you got?
No, it's good. We're all clear so far. You must be explaining it beautifully.
Awesome. All right. Looks like it's really the last session of the day. People just want a break, huh? Cool. So enter the Power Platform thing. I will talk about Dataverse for Teams in a minute, but I cannot skip over Power Platform and some of those topics here. I mean, I'm sure you have seen this slide over and over and over again, but I wanted to just put it here so that kind of we reinforce what is there in the Power Platform. The power of Dataverse, which is the low code, no code data platform, the power of connectors, the portals, and the entire application suite, automation suite, Power Virtual Agent, which is the chatbot communication stuff that you got here. And then, of course, the dynamic suite of applications, which also leverages Power Platform coming together. The power of everything coming together. And as Stephen was saying in the session before this, how we are trying to bring more power of dynamics and everything into Teams is how Teams becomes much and more powerful platform where you should bet on. And as you can see, with Power Platform already in the system and Dataverse being the hub of every action that goes around it, you can act on the data, analyze the data, automate your data, and also interact with that data or allow the customers to interact with your data, even when you do not have somebody sitting and answering those questions. So that's the power of Power Platform. And take that power of Power Platform and put it into Teams. That's what low code, no code data platform coming to Microsoft Teams is all about. So the Microsoft Dataverse for Teams packs that power of Power Platform along with the collaborative and productive productivity features that you have in the Teams, and then you got a deadly combination, which is what is happening here. Okay. It provides the same set of features that, as I told you, enterprises are betting on Dynamics 365 Power Platform. You get all of that goodness in the same thing. Provides the storage, rich data types, and everything that you have been used to on the Power Platform. If you're not used to, we'll get to see that in a minute. And then, of course, as always in enterprises, IT admins want control. They want governance capabilities. Everything is not, I mean, everything is there right from day one when you're adopting this platform here. Okay. Any questions so far? If not, I'll move ahead.
Nothing so far.
Okay, time for demo. All right, let me get a confirmation to see you guys can all see the screen.
Yep, we can see that.
Awesome. So what we got here is the traditional Teams window where you have all your teams here. If you haven't tried it out here, go to this Teams rail here and start adding your Power Apps. You can see the apps coming up here. Go to do it and like pin it. I've already pinned it, so it asked me to unpin it. You will start seeing it here right next to your Teams where you can see a Power Apps thing show up. You can do Power Virtual Agent and other apps as well. We'll get to that in a bit here. once you open PowerApps here, you will see there's a build hub, and build hub is where all your teams happen to show up here. By the way, a licensing disclaimer, or I would say an advantage you got here is you don't need to buy a PowerApp specific premium license. You can do everything that you see I'm going to do in the demo in next few minutes can be done with your basic M365 or Office 365 license, as you must be knowing. Okay, which is one more awesomeness of what you're getting into Teams. I'll go and look at what we have. If you guys are familiar with the Maker Studio experience in Power Platform, this is exactly that experience that you get here. So no learning curve, get going immediately on the Teams window already. Go to tables. So I'm going to create an expense tracker and try to show you how we can build simple applications, leverage Power Virtual Agent and PowerAutomate to come together and build like an ecosystem of expense tracking around it. Of course, I'm not going to be able to show all the complicated scenarios, but let's start with a simple scenario here where you'll start with some of the expense tracker thing. So I go to the tables and I will start creating a new table here, which is nothing but like, think about this as the spreadsheet where you keep all the information. I'm just going to say cost. For the sake of simplicity, I'll say this is my cost. And as you can see, all the capabilities that you must be understanding, like as you must be knowing the behind the scenes, it's leveraging Dataverse. So you can see it's a Dataverse entity or table, as you must be knowing. You can put all your uh, publisher prefix and the name, the color coding, the auditing features. As I told you, it's built for enterprise, built with the security and compliance at the heart of it. You can have all the auditing capabilities and all the security features built right from here. Once you start doing this, you are encouraged to like also looking at what columns you need to create. So give it a minute till it gets created. Meanwhile, we'll come as soon as it's saved, you will see that your cost table is now ready. And once you enter into it, you can start creating the columns. Now, when you talk about columns, this is another power of the Dataverse that comes into picture. Let's talk about the cost. Cost is just the folder, the team table I created. Let's say uh, a date column that I want to introduce. Look at the rich data types that you're getting. You can obviously, since I named the column as data, I'll probably pick date and date and time depending on what I want to do. But look at the other options you got. You can actually start auto numbering your systems, like all your columns as per, like for example, you're generating an invoice. You need a certain way of how the invoice needs to be generated. So let me just do it that way. Let's say I'm just creating an invoice and I'm actually choosing an auto number here. Look at the flexibility that you got here. You can actually seed the value to start from 1001. You can actually give regular expressions and create your own prefix. I will say I want it to start like this, and you will see the invoices will start getting auto numbered in invoice 001 and stuff like that. If you don't like to start from 1, you can actually start 001, and you will see some of those things starting at 001. So depending on like look at the flexibility that you got here, that you can do all of this without leaving the canvas of the Teams. I haven't moved out of the canvas of Teams yet. I am building the application here, and once the application is built, you will see that the end users can also start using it within the Teams application itself. I will quickly skip over this step and show you some of the tables that I've already created. I have a phone book table that's just like a phone directory. Very simple example. I had an expense table that I was talking about where I have expense receipts that I'm collecting. Once you have this, you can actually start inputting data right from here as well. As you can see, I've uploaded some samples. We talked about the auto numbering thing. I just said RBL is like an expense invoice prefix I wanted to use. I can see the expense receipts that I uploaded here. And pretty much your spreadsheet kind of a data is already ready, but of course with advanced features like security, auditing, and everything enabled, as you saw there. I'll take a pause to see if there are questions before moving ahead.
Nothing so far. You're good.
Okay, cool. That's good. Looks like I'm a good explainer or demo. The demo is going well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Either that or everybody is in fact asleep.
Hope that's not the case. Great. Okay. So while we were talking about tables, we also talked about complex entity relationships, or how you could have one to many, many to many relationships. You can build all of that here. Nothing is kind of hidden here from what you must be already used to doing it in the Power Platform. Of course, you can also have views like active expenses, so that it's already pre-filtered to what you just want to look at, like lookups and stuff like that. All of those awesomeness is not gone here from what you must have already experienced in Power Platform. If not, you can see the magic of Power Platform also happening in a few minutes. So let's come here and quickly start building an application. I'll try to say probably it's like 11:15 my time here. In the next few minutes, let's see how quickly can we build an app here. I'll just give the name. All I'm going to do is I will point it to the table that we created, or that was already there in my repository that I was already using. I think we used expenses, and as soon as I said, like at the time is 11:16 now, by the way, and let's see how the magic happens in a minute's time. There you go, your app is ready in no time, right? Everything we talked about, your application is ready. Let's start testing it already. So you're spending no time in actually getting this going. Let's input item number 5, maybe item number 6. Uh, I like to buy costly things, so let's put whatever. I did not put dollars or pounds or anything, but let's just say that's what I want to do here. Uh-oh, you got the item, but there's no receipt. Let's see what's going on here. Let's edit it. I still don't see a place to upload. So what you can come back and do is look at what is going on here. Oh, this is actually an expense receipt. So maybe I should give a control to add a receipt and just save it. So you can see this authoring experience if you're familiar with what you've done in PowerApp, Power Maker Studio, or the Maker portal. That's exactly the same. Without even leaving the Teams canvas, you're right there doing and editing controls just to kind of adjust some of the things that you need as per your convenience. Go hit preview, and now I'll just say I have an expense item here that I bought, and boom, there you go. The data is uploaded. You have a fully working app here without exposing large sets of spreadsheets with millions of rows and stuff. You're now collecting data, you're keeping it safe, you're keeping it secure. All of that is already done. Make sense? Let's go back to the preview of all the items we got. How many items do we get? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just let's remember 6 items in there. Now let's look at some of the other magic of, like, as I said, this was acting on the data. Let's look at how we can interact with the data by building some chatbots. I'll quickly cancel out from here and go back to home. Right there, Power Virtual Agent is where you actually start creating those Power Virtual Agent. If you go to home, as you must be already knowing, if you're not, Power Virtual Agents are the intelligent chatbots that you can build without writing any code. You will see in a few minutes how you can build them together. But the elementary portion of all the chatbots that you will build is like a topic. A topic is like, as the name suggests, it's like a specific portion of the chat where you can focus on. Out of the box, you will see a lot of chat topics are already created for you, like pre-built topics that you can stitch them together, like hi, goodbye, thank you, and all those kind of conversational things. But at the same time, I will say I can start a new topic altogether, and I will say the trigger phases, like it's basically like your hi Siri, hi Cortana, or kind of thing. I'll just say hi Pancho, and maybe something more funny, like very simple. Like I can add as many phrases as I want, like let's say phone, or let's say actually we were doing the expense one. Let's take the expense. Depending on the trigger phases I give, the chatbot is going to be invoked here. So I'm just actually authoring a thing here. So you can see the flow as soon as the trigger phase is connected, or whenever the trigger phase is words are uttered, you will decide what happens in the next phase here. So you're going to say, as soon as that happens, show a message to the user. So hello, Mr. or Miss. Here you can see I'm getting pre-built values here. What do you think is that value? It's basically, as the name suggests, it's the bot user display name. So whoever I'm logged in as Sri here, it will try to get that name. Look at the simplicity here. I'm not trying to make a connection to AAD, look at the user display name or anything like that. It's right in the canvas without writing any code. I'm able to get all of this going here. So hello, Mr. How can I help? Of course, this is a demo, so I'm going to decide what I will add next. But let's say this is, I'm going to ask a question. You interested in seeing the expense of expenses submitted? And look at these options that you got. You can actually ask multiple choice questions. Here, I'm going to just focus on saying it's a yes, no question. So let's say this is yes, and then the other question is no. As soon as I started putting a yes, no, you can see the loop. The decision tree started branching, and depending on the yes and the no answers, you can now tailor what the next response should be. So if it's no, then all I'm saying is thank you for visiting because I don't have any other business to do here. But if it's yes, I can actually from here fire another PowerAutomate action to go calculate the number of records that are submitted and bring them back into this kind of a thing. I will just, for simplicity, start with the template. Look at what is going on here. It's going to fail or it will not save my changes. So I'll just save it for simplicity before moving ahead. Okay. There's also interesting thing. I may need to put a name here so that I remember what it is. Save a copy. Teams Nation demo for the sake so that I remember it. And then save it again. And now let's go wire up this thing and see what was going on here. It's still saving. Let me give it some time to save. There it is. Remember, I haven't yet gone out of the Teams canvas while building all of this here, which means if I get a chat from somebody, not that I like to be distracted, but if my manager or if my boss or if my VP or somebody wants to kind of send an urgent message, I'm not missing out on that collaboration scenario here as well. Come back to the PowerAutomate here. The studio experience, the maker experience is still the same that you must be familiar with. Come back here and you will see the same thing. PowerVirtualAgent automatically allows you to pass an input from the PowerVirtualAgent that you are actually playing with, which means you can take an input from the user, pass it down to the flow as well here. In our case, we are not doing any such thing here. Instead of phone books here, what we had was expenses, if you remember. I'll just add that thing and say, once I get the list of expenses, all I'm getting is the number of entries that are there. And this one is actually a simple length formula. If you expand this, all you're seeing is get the length of the body values that you get from the top and pass it back here. So once you do that, you will be very well be able to test everything just like the way you are testing just this independent piece. Because this is a pre-tested template I had, I will go back and see if it got that value, and the entries that are there in that template is going to come back here as a number of entries here. And once the value is there, I need to display this back to say the number of expenses submitted today. Remember, we did not do any filtering. We can actually say filter it only to show the dates for today's date that was submitted. And then all I'm doing is bring back this entries variable that the PowerAutomate returns to display that to the end user here. And that's it. Pretty much my Power Virtual Agent bot is ready here. Once this is saved here, let's test the bot here. Obviously, you interact by saying hello. Does anyone remember the phrase that we used there? I think I remember bonjour.
Yeah, it was bonjour.
Yeah, I think I mixed up some of the phone book entries and stuff like that instead. What is the thing here?
Oh, expenses, was it?
Yeah, let's do expenses because I think I have it in two places. Let's see. Yes. So this particular, I had put bonjour somewhere else as well. So that first one got triggered here for the phone book. But let's just say the expenses one is very unique to here where I submitted. So it's already saying hello, Mr. Miss, obviously. Gender was not one of the things that I could pre-select here, but and then it says, are you interested in seeing? You can see how the flow is flowing through. I'll just minimize it so that you can see how the flow of control goes. It gave me the yes, no option. Obviously, I'm interested in seeing the yes option. And you can see how the Power Virtual Agent will fire, get me the number of expenses submitted today as number 4. So those are some of the things that I wanted to show quickly, as to say, without moving out of the themes canvas, you have been able to achieve so much here, which is definitely something worth celebrating here on how the power of Power Platform came to teams and improved your story for digital transformation as such. And you can see how much more can be achieved without learning a single line of code, or without writing a single line of code, or learning any new coding language here. That I like to conclude the demo and pause to kind of see if there are questions. If not, we can go back to.
You have a couple actually. So George asked a little while ago, and it may have been answered because you showed us the tables first. He was saying, in a production scenario, how will the data get into the tables? But I think you've answered that now by showing the app.
Yeah, you build apps and then you secure those apps by roles, security roles, so that only people who you intend to put data will be the ones who will be able to access that. Let me show you that a little bit here. So if you look at the app surface here, the app that we built was, excuse me, let's say expense track. Once you get into that, sorry, I'm clicking around a little bit just to kind of get you that view. Expense track here. In here, you can actually start editing. Oh, give me a minute. So in here, you can see when it was created and what is the app ID, the versions, the different versions of it, what are the connections that are connecting to it, and all those things. In the Power Platform world, where you have an independent app running outside of the teams, you have an ability to give security. But remember, we are inside our teams already. So the team construct of security applies to this one as well, which means if you're a team member who is part of this team where I'm building this application, you will have access to this particular app here. And then you can see some of the analytics preview. Obviously, I don't have enough data because this was just a demo environment where not many people are using it, but you can see the usage, the performance and location. I'll give you a snapshot in the deck afterwards to show how much rich data automatically starts flowing in. This goes back into one of the digital transformation bottlenecks as well to see, is the new app being used? How is the engagement? How is the user adoption? All of that starts flowing to you as a maker without even having to invest anything. You did not write special telemetry code or special diagnostics or analytics code to kind of capture this information here. So yes, apps is the way, and anyone who is a part of this team, specifically like Superb Sales team that I'm talking about, that's where you are able to get this information. All these members will be able to use that app, and then you can pin the app here itself so that you can, oh, that's the old one. You can start building them here itself. Once your app is ready, you can pin them here so that without actually going to, and this is basically how the end users will use the app and not the maker who was creating and testing the app specifically that we were looking at. Okay, and here's the item number 6 that we added as part of the demo. Of course, that I didn't save that application, so all that UI where I added the image is missing here. Okay, I'll jump back. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a PDA question or a chatbot question. If you click on chat to view a chat message when you author an app or a flow, is it possible to return even if I haven't saved?
I haven't saved, and you saw what happened in my demo here. If you don't save, you kind of lose that thing. So eventually we are getting some feedback. We may make it auto save because it's just one extra action that you have to save. But so far from what we have seen, it needs that explicit save button to be pushed so that we save the state.
Okay, thank you. Okay. That covers all your questions.
Cool. Coming back to the slide and continuing from where we left, right? We talked about the elements of digital transformation. You saw the benefits with Power Platform, the Dataverse for Teams platform that we were talking about, how without any code, you're able to train the people to write new apps, time to upscale. You can see literally in 30 minutes you saw, I don't think we spent 30 minutes, like 15 minutes you saw how the app was built, how virtual agents were built. You may have to click around a little bit as you're learning, but believe me, in a day's worth of time, you should be able to kind of get basic scenarios unlocked, which even your financial analyst, even an elementary school teacher, or even an hospital doctor or a front desk personnel, those kind of people are also kind of automate their way out of the mundane tasks that they are actually required to do every day by adopting this platform here. Okay, user adoption, as I said, viral adoption is one good ingredient of all of this. The moment you start showing these application building capabilities to your colleague, they start getting excited as well, because there's hardly any training involved here. You start building things, you start automating your way, and there's some personal sense of fulfillment that you are able to get some better every day by automating so many things and also adding value to your organization, right? So without even a push from the top, management or anything, you can see people start adopting this virally across the organization, and thereby solving one big hurdle for getting the digital transformation going. Measuring progress, I already showed you the place where you can go look at the analytics. And if that data was being used, or if that app was being used, here is how the analytics would be seen. Again, this is a small scale demo app that I was running for 30 days or so. You can see the kind of analytics that you're getting, how many app launches happened, from which geography were they using it, and all that information is out here that you can look at. And then as you build production grade apps, you will start releasing versions after one after the other. You just have to publish it, and the published version is what people will see. As long as you do not publish it, you can keep working on the next iteration and saving it as long as you are feeling confident that it's not ready. I mean, until you feel confident that it's ready, you can keep it in the unpublished saved version. And when it's ready, you can publish the next version of it, which is what you can see. The user split between different versions also can be seen, if at all. Like you want to see how many people used 22 version, then I launched 23, published 23, so I can see how many users were using the newest version of all of it. That comes to an end of what I had to cover. I think it's a good time to ask your questions, and over to you, Sharon.
Thank you so much. Great session to end the day. I'm just going to pop in the feedback link just to support the slide that you've got up there. We don't have any more questions in the chat, and I think that's because we're now getting dangerously close to the after party, and that could be what's motivating people at the moment. But you know, again, another great walkthrough of exactly how we get to leverage that data, not just create great relational data, but actually leverage it directly from within teams and delegate that out to the end users. So thank you so much for that. It was a really good session.
Yeah. Thank you for your time, guys. I know it's super late, and I am the only one between you and the party, so I don't want to take more of your time. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to answer most of your questions here. Thank you. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. And thanks for everybody for attending today. Please do give us some feedback on the event as a whole and the sessions that you've attended today, so that we know what to do for next year for you. It's been an absolute pleasure to be your moderator in this room, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye.